Her name is Pickle, and she not only leads the Los Angeles Drag Story Hour, but recently became America's second Drag Laureate. Here's a bit of her act.
Whether I'm...
Does this work?
Not slick back, no.
Hey, does this work?
Yes!
Yes!
Out of my own misery.
Oh, come on. Calm down, queen. Let's put the Glock away. Why don't you just sit down and rest your granny cankles while I finish up? Okay, good.
Yes, Theo said he saw them over at Cheeseburger Sally's.
Cheeseburger Sally's. Love their fries.
But when I asked her about it, she lied to me.
How could she hang with that fucking thief?
Well,
I don't know Bible references, honey. I was raised Buddhist.
you're a fucking traitor.
A Judas.
Judas?
From the Bible.
Yeah, I know, from the fucking Bible.
You were with Jezebel.
Jezebel, also from the Bible.
She is. Gotta read that book.
Ladies. Sorry, Jules, 1 second. You have to unlock it by hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
He keeps talking about RuPaul's Drag Race or something. Ah, yes, we've seen this before. Has he been exposed to an anxiety medication called crisis control? It exploits illegal nanobot technology to attack the central nervous system. The user experiences hallucinations of a strange world called RuPaul's Drag Race, where the men wear elaborate costumes.
Let's get sickening!
There's dancing and lip syncing. This drug creates in the user an obsession with Zamolochikova.
Oh no!
We're sending someone over immediately.
That's Pickle the Drag Queen.
Is that like hair glued onto you?
I can't reveal my secrets. It's just sitting on my head.
Oh.
Like a dead animal.
Why aren't you wearing shoes?
Unfortunately, Pickle couldn't join us today, so she sent her surrogate, Joseph. Joseph, come on in.
Hello. Thank you for coming, Amber. So glad
Thank you, Joseph. Tell us, what did we just watch?
That was my unupdated reel that I got on my website, I guess. Those were 3 or 4 video projects that I did. So the first was a Dollar Shave Club commercial, and then there was a short film that I was in called 3 Queens, and then a short that my friend made, Ian, called Pink Mirror, and I played like some technology person.
So tell us the history of Pickle. Where did she start?
Pickle, I started with Pickle about 8 years ago. I started dabbling in drag in college. I played a couple parts in musicals that called for drag roles. And when I started doing it in those shows, I really felt very activated by it. So I explored it more in college, and then I decided to commit to doing it. I really feel that it's the art form that resonates the most with me. And so that's kind of where I got my start.
Tell us about your early gigs. What did you do? What did you perform?
I started at this like dive bar in Highland Park called the Offbeat, and they do this night called Exposure Drag. It's still going every Monday night. It's been going for 8 years. And I was one of the OG Exposure girls, and we just were really just the blind leading the blind in there, just, you know, going in there on Monday nights and dolling up and lip syncing, and through doing that I just sort of built this sort of sensibility, the Pickle sensibility, which is all about comedy and authenticity and connecting with audiences, and I've just built from there. Yeah.
Does Pickle have any role models that she likes to emulate?
Certainly. I looked up to Carrie Fisher growing up a lot. She was very special to me. Her special Wishful Drinking and her books, I read all of them. Of course, I love Star Wars as well. I think what really connected with me was this level of, she does comedy, it's funny, but it's very authentic to her. Like, she doesn't really lie. It's all from her life and her experience. So she's not so much making jokes as she is making a joke of being alive. And I love her form of storytelling, and I try to commit that to what I do. So definitely Carrie Fisher. I used to watch Married with Children, so there's a little bit of Peg Bundy, I think.
Yeah.
In the back of my head as well, because it came on before The Simpsons, so I would watch it.
On top of your head too, I see a little Peg Bundy as well.
Yeah, there's a little Peg Bundy in the hair. It's good. I mean, with drag, it's like, the bigger the hair, the more kind of petite my face looks. But the Peg Bundy was the master of that.
You sing. Rather than lip sync, you choose to sing. Tell me about that choice.
I do. I love to sing. I've always loved singing. One of the things that I love about drag is that I didn't start singing in drag, and I didn't really think of myself as a singer before doing drag. I was always kind of shy with my voice, and then doing drag, I wanted to start singing because I love musical theater. I enjoy the act of singing, but I never felt like I was a good enough singer to do it. And just through doing drag, it sort of didn't matter as much, the quality of the singing. And so I really committed myself to doing it. And then I discovered that, people respond well to my voice. So I worked really hard at it. It's not something that's ever come naturally to me. I've had to work really hard to sing well. And, but now I love doing it. There's something about the work that goes into it, and it just removes that extra layer between me and the audience and them hearing me. So I really thank Pickle for opening me up to that. I came from a very musical family. My dad is a bass player. My little brother plays drums. My sister plays piano. So their music was always a part of my life, but I didn't think that it really belonged to me until I was doing drag and was able to claim that.
Now, do you see Pickle ever performing in a musical theater piece?
Yeah, I love the idea of being Pickle playing a role. I've done films and mostly I've done a few short films, and I've done sort of acting projects as Pickle. I think that it would be a lot of fun. I would love, there are a few roles that I would love to play in musicals. Very particular. I'm not interested in being an actor. Like, that's not what I identify with. But I enjoy musicals so much. I would love to play Lola in Damn Yankees. I think that would be a great part for Pickle, or The Witch in Into the Woods. I think those would be good. Any part where there's a little bit of a nod to the audience, I think, is important for me as a performer. I have a hard time with the fourth wall.
We have a clip of you singing. Let's hear that. Oh my, what a band you have. Tell me about, how did you get a band like that?
Yeah, it's like anytime I pursue something, it's just never enough. It's like when I started singing, when I was lip syncing in drag, it's like it wasn't enough, so I started singing. And then when I was singing in drag, I was like, well, the tracks are limiting me, so I started doing it with a piano player. And then just over time, I just added and added and added. Until now, I actually work with a 10-piece band, and it's hard to, it's made it challenging because it's like you can't just roll up to a club on like a Monday night for $50 with a 10-piece band. But it really adds a lot. As I mentioned, I come from a musical family, and the drummer is actually my brother Charlie, who is at USC. So they're all USC students that he knows, and I connected with a piano player, and we we put together this show. It's called Pickle with a P, which is what that's from, and it's that extra dimension of getting, because Victor, the piano player, Victor Bucacella, he arranges. So we in the rehearsals we were able to, not only are we doing the songs, but we're doing unique arrangements. So like I've always been attracted to orchestration, not like writing orchestrations, but the brass and the strings. And so it's cool because not only are we getting to do the songs, we're getting to do our interpretations of the songs, and in rehearsal we'll be like, we have a lot of humor in it. So the for example, the flute player was sort of offhandedly playing the theme, Princess Leia's theme from Star Wars in rehearsal, and I was like, wait, do that again. And like, I was like, where are we gonna add that? Because I love Carrie Fisher. And so we like added it to this moment in a song where it like stops and suddenly he gets up and he like plays the theme beautifully. And it's just that kind of collaboration that's added a lot to the work.
How fun. All right, we have some pictures that we'd like to show, and please give us a commentary on the pictures. Russell, if you'd run those. Oh my.
That's me as a baby. I used to dress up. I'm not sure if you did. Did you dress up when you were a kid?
Perhaps.
I feel like that's kind of a prerequisite. It's like my sister and I used to dress up, and I played this character named Judge Jody because my name is Joe, and she was kind of running the show. I didn't necessarily have a choice. I was kind of like, I enjoyed putting on the dresses for sure and dancing around. But I was cast by her to play Judge Jody, and she was kind of, I think, like a prince or something.
Next picture.
Oh yeah, that's a picture by Caitlin Hernandez, who wrote the LAist story on me becoming the Drag Laureate. So that's my dad's dining room that I was house sitting at the time, and I was like, oh perfect. So the photos will make it look like I live in a really nice house, which is a little bit of deception. But there I'm sewing the dress that I wore to accept the laureateship, and yeah, that's the dress. And that's a photo by Magnus Hastings in the crosswalk in West Hollywood. And we had to get that shot, we had to like run during the green light. And actually he photoshopped it out, but my friend Darwin is holding that up. You can't see him in the shot because he got edited out, but my friend was holding up that backdrop, and we kind of wanted it to look a little bit like Queen Elizabeth in like postage stamps, because I love the idea of kind of poking fun at the pomp and ceremony. That's me with Adina.
Okay, I think you cut out there. So who was that again?
Sorry, that's Adina Menzel and her sister, whose name is Adina Menzel's sister. So I feel like this is a gotcha moment. I like Kara, Adina Menzel and Kara Menzel. We did a reading together of their book Loudmouse at the local library. It was a lot of fun.
All right, tell us more about your drag story hour. How did you get started with that?
Drag Story Hour, which has just become such a core part of my life, I can't tell you how much of a coincidence it was that I started doing it. This woman, Michelle T, had started the organization in San Francisco with Radar Productions, and then it was about a year later, or half a year, that her friend here in LA, Michael, was like, I want to do a Drag Story Hour, because he had kids. And there wasn't any Drag Story Hour in Los Angeles, and so his friend was my stepmom, and he was like, do you know any drag queens? I don't know any drag queens. And she was like, I think my stepson is a drag queen. And so then they called me, and they were like, do you want to read for kids? And this was back when, it was only like such and such years ago, but it's pretty recently. But that was when Drag Story Hour wasn't like very much on the radar. It was very new. And so I hadn't heard of this idea, but they were like, do you want to read to kids? And it seemed so logical to me. I was like, oh, that's just such a great idea. I love kids. I love performing for them. So I said yes. And so I was the first reader here in LA. And then, about a year later, there was so much demand for the program. And Michael was like, I just wanted to do the one. I didn't really want to run this organization. So they asked me to do it. And it's been just like one of the great joys of my life. It's such an important program and such an honor to not only participate as a performer, but also to help other performers participate in it and expand it the way we have.
We've had several readers from all over the country on the show as well. And we know the importance of that program. Now, tell me about being a drag laureate. What's a drag laureate?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Amber. The chief duty of a drag laureate is to explain what a drag laureate is, actually. So basically, you've heard of a poet laureate, I'm sure. So like a poet laureate, any laureate is someone who's recognized kind of at the top of their field as a representative. So the government, in this instance, the city of West Hollywood, selected me as a representative, as kind of like an ambassador between the government and an art form. So the principal idea behind a laureateship is to promote the art form on a public level. So it's like to expand the footprint of drag in the city of West Hollywood, to expand the role of drag artists in the culture of West Hollywood, to connect drag artists to more and more interesting opportunities, and to really see how we can expand it. So there's me functioning as kind of a figurehead. So they bring me out, like they haul me out on floats and stuff to like interact with the community. And then there's also the community work that I do. We've started these drag artist roundtables where we've been, we had our first one last week. It was a lot of fun. We're hoping to get more and more artists involved, but it was a really interesting conversation where we all came together and we kind of talked about, this first one was focused on design. So we talked about how we approach making looks and what resources we use to share with each other. And then also we talked about opportunities that we want to see for drag artists. So we're putting together a proposal to bring to the Arts Commission of the city to be like, hey, we want to have, there should be a drag grant. Like, because drag has been so historically relegated to spaces like nightclubs and bars because they were the only safe spaces for queer people to do this kind of art. And now more and more as it's stepping into the sunlight, it's like, we need to be, there's nothing wrong with performing drag in nightclubs and bars. That's great. It's going to be a staple of the art form for a long time. But there's other spaces where the art should be also expanding to, and spaces that really have the economy to allow drag artists to put on the kind of show they want to. In bars and nightclubs, the margins are so they're operating in tight margins. So you can't delegate as many resources to the actual art of drag. It falls on the artist to finance their own drag. So we want to create opportunities like grants where we give drag artists the chance to explore their art more deeply and have a bigger impact on the community in what they do and who has access to it. So we were putting together obviously you have to come up with well, what is that? What is a drag grant? What should the project be doing? What are the kind of tenets of drag? What makes it drag? And it's just been a really fun conversation.
How long does your reign as a drag laureate last?
my tyranny. My consult for life. I decree myself. It's a 2-year term, so it's a 2-year commitment. And I started in July, so we will inaugurate the next Drag Laureate in July of 2025.
All right, you're very out there, whether it be you're singing on stage with that 10-piece band at the Drag Story Hour or as a drag laureate. Have you run into any resistance like we've seen in the rest of the country?
No, yeah, I have. Yes, there's definitely, I have been kind of a target of a lot of negative attention from the right. They kind of see me in this region as sort of they see me with the kids a lot. So I also have the dubious pleasure of being one of the Getty images of Drag Story Hour. So I get a lot of friends sending me articles being like, I didn't know you were in Scotland. And it's like a Scottish like Breitbart article about like drag queen attacks children. And it's me, and I'm just like, nope. So I get pulled into it in that way a lot. And yeah, there's definitely not as much as, you know, of course, the legislation being passed in these other states is affecting drag artists in those areas much more immediately and with greater effect. But I definitely experience a lot of the pushback. I really don't engage with it at all. I really don't. My policy for that kind of PR is just to ignore it. This is the vocal minority. People do not see drag as a threat on a bigger level. It's being used.
Oops. All right. So in one of those clips that we saw in the introduction, you mentioned RuPaul's Drag Race. One, what's your take? And two, will you ever appear on it?
Oh, yeah. I will say for the record that was a line that I had to say. No, but yes, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. I think it's wonderful. RuPaul is one of my idols. I really look up to her. I think that she's, you know, of course there's been controversy surrounding it, which is what happens to any artist at that level. But I really do believe that no one hosts like RuPaul. Like, you know, she's kind of untouchable in a lot of ways. I am a fan of the show. I'm not a fan of every aspect of the show. You know, obviously it's like anything. You know, I'm kind of a nerd. I listen to a lot of like economic podcasts and like follow tech news. So I'm not as like pop culture obsessed, but I enjoy the platform that it's given drag artists. And I actually am auditioning this year for the first time in a while. I used to audition when I had started drag and was nowhere near ready for it. But now that I make all my costumes and things, I was like, you know, that the timing would be good now. So yeah, I'm gonna audition and throw my hat in the ring, and I would love to go on the show. I would love to win the show. I don't do things for, I wouldn't be doing it for exposure. That would be great, but like, I wouldn't go on if I didn't think I could win. You know, I don't enter races that I don't really feel that I could do. And you know, the last few years that I've passed on auditioning is because I was like, I don't think I could win. You know, I don't feel like I could nail every challenge. And now, I'm not saying that I would do perfectly if I went on, but I think that it's like Alyssa Edwards said, like, you know, winning isn't everything, wanting to is. I think a lot of people make the mistake of going on the show thinking that it's going to be their ticket. But it's like, you know, it's a show. It's like anything. Every opportunity has ups and downs, and you know, it's just a tiny piece. That's my attitude about all the opportunities I've had. You know, it's just a tiny piece of a bigger picture, and can't get wrapped up in that. But my take on the show is that, you know, I think it's more positive than it is negative. I think that, you know, there's a lot of criticism about the appropriation of queer culture or the homogenization of drag, but I think this is a natural step in drag becoming more and more mainstream. And with time, we're seeing more shows like We're Here and Legendary that take new pieces of drag and present it in these different ways. It's just going to be more and more. And it so happens that RuPaul was the first kind of big mainstream venture into that, but I think it's really great, and I'm a huge fan. I think she's hysterical. I think she's so fun and has done so much for that community, and I think it's great.
Well, we wish you luck in your audition. We'd love to have you back after you win the next round and tell us all about it. Joseph, you and Pickle are amazing with what you do. Congratulations and good luck on your reign of tyranny as Drag Laureate of West Hollywood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amber. Likewise. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to promote all these artists. And I love your look, by the way. You're so fabulous.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Joseph.